Welcome everyone to the inaugural video of my new Shoop Scrabbles channel. As a very passionate Scrabble player, I used to be that guy that would get dominated in games by other people because I simply thought they were just smarter than me. They knew more words than I did. But little did I know that the keys to Scrabble have little to do with how smart you are, but how effectively you utilize your tiles and your board. And in this video, I'm going to go over 5 simple tips that will help make you a better Scrabble player so you can start being that guy or that girl that starts kicking other players' asses in this game. Because once you do, it's a whole lot of fun. So I'm not going to waste much time. I'm just going to get right into it. And I'm going to start with tip number 1, which is to understand the POE theory. And what does that mean? It's the points over expected theory. So I got this board right here with me. I'm just going to open it up real quick. And on this board, you will see a bunch of tiles with different point values on them. Now, certain tiles or spaces on this board will be worth more. So you got your triple words right here, your triple letters, your double words, and your double letters. In order, the triple words, they're the most rare and they offer the most points over expected. Your triple letters are probably second on that list. Then you got the double words and your double letters. The key of the game has nothing to do with how long your words are, but how effectively you use these tiles on the board. You want to be able to get as many triple words as possible because that will consistently give you triple points over expected for each tile that you use with this triple word. Your triple letters have also triple the expected points based on what tile you put there. You know, if you put a 1 point or a 1 point value letter, triple letter, well, that's 2 points over expected. But if you put, let's say, a 10 point letter, triple letter, that's 20 points over expected. So you see what I mean here. The more points over expected you have, the higher your score is going to be, but also the more likely that you can compound that score and start to pull away from your opponent. And that is the basis of really everything that it means to be a good Scrabble player. But while you understand that, you have to know the words that are going to get you there and how to utilize those letters to get you there. And that has a lot to do with what are the valuable tiles in the game. What tiles are the most coveted? And those tiles are, I have 7 out of the 27 tiles that I think are very valuable. So you have your 5 tiles, which have a distribution of 1. And that is your K, your J, your Q, your X, and your Z. K is the only letter among these 5 that are worth less than 8 points. The K is worth 5. The others, the X and the J, are worth 8 points each, and the Q and the Z are worth 10 points each. Now, the theory behind this with the Scrabble game is that it's more difficult to use these letters, therefore, they're worth more points. And a lot of players will get these letters and think, oh, now I have to find a way to get this off the board so I can have more usable letters. But that's not how you should play it. You should understand the effectiveness behind these letters. Because they're so rare, you don't have to, you know that your opponent's not going to be able to use these against you. And therefore, you have that advantage that they're probably going to be getting tiles that are worth less points. So you have that for you. And you have the added advantage of, well, these tiles are worth more points. So therefore, I have a higher chance of being able to utilize this to get more points over expected. So as an example, QI is one of the two-letter words I'm going to be discussing in a moment, but QI on itself is just two letters. However, it can be instantly worth almost 20 to 30 points over expected if you're using it in a triple word or a triple letter. So if you have that opportunity, then you can blow your opponent out of the water just by using one tile. Same thing with ZA. ZA is another valid Scrabble word, and using that as well, same concept. 10 points, you can get up to 20 points over expected, and if you have that tile on you, you know how you can effectively use it to potentially get yourself a whole lot of points. And this kind of goes into my next point, which I'll kind of call 2B, but it's really a third point, which is knowing your valuable two-letter words. And that includes your QI, your ZA, your JO, your XI, your XU, KI, KA. Those are all build off those high value tiles. And those can be used to give you more points over expected and help you build better words. But I'll go back to these two-letter words in a second because I think it deserves its own point. The other two tiles in the game that I didn't mention that are extremely valuable is your S and your blank space. The reason your S and your blank space are so valuable is, well, you can add it on to any word and make it plural and give yourself more points, the ability to branch off and make a word off of that other word. But what you should know is if you use all 7 of your tiles in one go, you add an extra 50 points onto your score. This is how a lot of professional Scrabble players dominate their opponents, is by accumulating at least 1 to 2, even more if possible, 50-point plus words per game. And the S in the blank tile is what's going to get you there. The blank tile, I only have to mention, you can use for any layer you want. So it increases your chances of being able to make that 7-letter word. In addition, the S is the easiest way to just tack it onto the end of the word and make another word on top of it. As well as if you have 6 tiles that you can make a 6-letter word out of those tiles, all you have to do is add the S on, and it becomes a 7-letter word, and then all of a sudden you have a 50-point word. So that in itself is extremely valuable. So if you get these S's or these blank tiles, don't just use them to make a word because you're stuck. Try to hold these tiles back and use them in appropriate circumstances so you can get the most PoE that you can get out of these tiles. Now going back to my third point, which is knowing your 2-letter words. So I mentioned the valuable ones with the J's and the X's and the Z's and the Q's, but really all of them should be memorized. And the main reason for this, and I'm going to show an example after this so you're aware of what I'm talking about, is let's say you put a 5-letter word right here. Let's say it doesn't have to be a 5-letter word, but we're just gonna say faced, F-A-C-E-D. You put F-A-C-E-D right here. Normally what another player might try to do is they'll see like the D and they'll try to make a word based off of that. And so they might do moved as an example. So moved in this case would get you double letter 6, 7, 11, 12, 14 points. Not bad, right? But what if we could do this instead? So we have faced right here and we have MOVE. But what if we just decide to do Mo? Mo is a lot shorter than moved. But if you put it here, double letter, MO, then all of a sudden you have 7 points going this way, 3 points going this way, and then going this way, you add on another 7 because you're using this double letter twice. You're multiplying your PoE. So you get 17 points off of this 2-letter word compared to 14 points based off this 4-letter word, just because you're using multiple 2-letter words back to back. And I haven't even mentioned, you could, if you didn't, let's say you could go even further with this. So you can add on the V here and the E here. And then all of a sudden, you have the same word that's worth 14 points here, but across this way, it's worth, you got the 17 plus double letter V and then E, it's worth 26 points. The same 4 letters, MOVE, were across this way, as opposed to this way, is worth 12 more points. That's the value of knowing what your 2-letter words are. There's a whole list, and I'll put it in the description of this video so you can know exactly what it is. But it will immediately make your game more versatile, and it will allow you to create better words and more complex words, and just get you way more points than you would just trying to make the longest word possible. Again, I'll show you an example at the end of this video. So number 4, the fourth most important point is playing a defensive game. You know, this game is all about scoring the most points possible, but you do want to have the ability to see your opponent's move coming. And that has a lot to do with knowing what spaces on the board are valuable. So your triple letters, your double words, your triple words, but also seeing what is on the board, what is readily available. Essentially, what is the value of this space if I don't put letters down on it? So let's say you're stuck with a bunch of vowels. You might have one consonant, but you have a ton of vowels. You have no really good words. So I'm going to open up this board again. Right. If you've got a word going this way, so you have these spaces available, and maybe you only have like an ATE, so you can make the word ATE. That's not that great of a word per se, but what it does is your opponent might be loaded up. He might have a Z right here, and he can make the word ZA. If your opponent puts that word down, they're getting 30 points, and you are having to play catch up. Rather than you put down a word like a 3-letter word here, you might get like 15 to 20 points off this word. It's not going to be as much as 30. It's not as much as you could get, but you prevent your opponent from laying that 30-point word down on you, and now they have to create points from a different area. You want to be able, if this is really only a strategy you use if you have poor letters and you're not able to go in offensive attack mode and be able to put more points on the board. If you can't do that, your best move is to prevent your opponent from utilizing these high value spaces and basically make them find a better move. And I will show you that as well. The 5th point, and this is an important point because Scrabble's a game all about fun and strategy. It's a competitive game. It's a lot of competition in it, but it's a whole lot of luck. The Z's, the Q's, the J's are all super valuable, but you might not ever be able to put them in the place that you exactly want to put it in. You also might not even get those letters. They might all go to your opponent, and your opponent might utilize them against you, and you really can't do nothing about it because the letters are not in your control. So the focus of the game, and this ties back into my last point about knowing your opponent's next move, is just controlling what you can control. Where can you put your letters? And where can you put your letters to give yourself the best possible advantage? It's not always going to be how do you get your putting down letters to get the most points, but rather using what letters you have effectively. So if you're stuck with a bunch of U's, maybe your best option is just how can I get rid of as many U's as possible on this turn? If you have a bunch of vowels, what's the longest word I can make? Because then it'll give me the opportunity to get possibly better tiles on the next turn instead of being stuck in this position on and on again. So now that I've explained what the 5 rules of becoming a better Scrabble player are, I'm about to play a game of Scrabble against a random opponent, and I'm gonna go through each of my moves. Okay, so here we are on a live Scrabble game. This is on playscrabble.com if you ever want to play free games. Uh, so this pretty formidable opponent, as you see, average score is 1500. So anything above that is pretty good. So I'm going to just take you through what I do. So I have the starting position, which is the fortunate position of being able to go first and being able to being able to get the double letter from this star right here. So if you get the first turn of the game, your best move is to try to make a 5-letter word so you can utilize this double letter and increase your PoE. The highest point letter I have in my tiles is a W. So I'm going to try to maximize my points by using this W right here. And I have a bunch of options that I can make because I have the S here. This is an appropriate situation to use an S because increasing my letters in my word count will allow me to get me the double and will increase my points by a little bit. So I'm going to put Weens down as my first word, get myself 24 points. We get another W, which is great. We have a very good mix, and we get another S. So that's fantastic. So this is a very fortunate start to this game, but we're going to see how our opponent plays this one. While I'm waiting for my opponent, I am scouting the board and looking at opportunities. It's a little difficult after the first turn because the opponent doesn't have a lot of letters to work with, so he's probably going to be using what you're thinking about using. But right now, I'm looking at potentially using this double or 2-letter word strategy and potentially building off here, potentially doing something like this. Well, not with the W, but with the B. So I'm looking at different options that I can put across here. As I wait. So the good thing about B's in this game is that B, A, B, I, B, E, and B, O are all valid 2-letter words in this game. So the B's are very versatile and they're worth a lot of points. He comes back with Mel with 15 points. So there's a couple different options that I can go with here. But I'm going to choose to utilize once again my most valuable letter here, and I'm going to put it on the triple letter. And I'm going to do a double web. What this allows me to do is I can get double the points out of the B because I'm using it in 2 different words. I'm using a W on the triple letter, maximizing the amount of points I can get. And I'm getting the points out of this M right here. So now I've opened up a pretty good lead against his opponent. It's still early. You can easily come back with a 7-point or 7-letter word. So I'm always cautious. I'm never too caught up in whatever lead I have because anyone who's good at Scrabble can erase a tall lead in an instant. So right now, what I have 3 vowels. I still have the S, 2 R's, and an M. My M is my most valuable letter right now. So I'm going to be looking to utilize this as best as possible. If I have another S, I could put down mirrors and make it a long word. Not another S, but another R, that is. So right now I'm just looking for opportunities. To go over the R, the only two-letter word you can make with an R with the R at the front is RE. But the other way you can make OR, AR, and ER. So you have some options to use with the R, but I can't do Ra. Ra is not a valid letter. Right now, and another advantage that I didn't go over with putting this down is there aren't any words that start with a letter and then end with web. So I'm eliminating the use of this triple word, at least for now, unless it somehow builds up here. But I don't have to worry about him utilizing triple words, which means he has less ammo against me. The only thing he can really do right now as an advantage is if he can somehow put together triple a word, and he can't come up with anything. So he's stuck on the board. So he uses gel. It's a 4-point word. So now we're in a position of very high leverage. We can effectively put this opponent away very early. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to evaluate my options a little bit. So I have worms that I can put down here. I'm utilizing the M, and it gets me 20 points. It's pretty good, but it might not be our best. Mem is another version of a word. But you see here, I have MS. It already gives me 20 points. If I can find a way to utilize this W, and the only way I can do it is with an O, then I have suddenly a very good word. I'm going to throw the R in front of it to give myself ROMs. And the reason I do this is because if he has a letter that begins it with or ends with OMS, that I don't want him to get double the points by going down. So I'm going to throw it in there. Now all of a sudden I have a 60-point lead. A 7-letter word, utilizing all 7 letters on your board will get you 50 points. So anytime you have a lead of 50 points or more, really 60, because you're not going to just get the 50 points, but you probably get that added on to what you have already. So you have a 60-point lead. You have a bit of a safety net against the person utilizing a 7-letter word out of nowhere. Now I've used all of my high leverage letters, all the high point letters, and I'm stuck now with a bunch of 1-point letters. So what do I do in this situation? Okay, so puts down Rover. It gets him 27 points. He utilized a triple letter, but I'm not too bothered by it because it was equal in points to the word that I just put down. So now I'm looking elsewhere on the board. What else can I put down that could be a high leverage play? Well, I don't have a ton of openings here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize this V, and I'm going to put down as long of a word as I can. So varies in this case. So it's the POE is good because I'm doubling the point values of all of these, and I'm utilizing a V, which I don't have. But now I have the ability of getting new letters and potentially getting better words without putting my opponent in a position where they can take advantage of getting like a triple word. I'm not so worried about a triple letter. The only thing I'm worried about is if he has an H, he can easily SH is a valid Scrabble word, but they don't use it. They don't have an H, or they just don't use it. They just use a simple ED. So not much for me to build off there, but it's not a word that scares me in any bit. So now what do I do? So I don't have a ton of open spots, and I don't really want to open up anything for the player. So I'm going to see maybe if I can utilize this triple letter in any way. So what I could do is boa, like boa constrictor. Um, it's a simple word, but it doesn't allow them to put any sort of uh, double word down here. You can't utilize a triple letter. So I think it's a pretty effective move. And we're taking one of our high value letters and putting it in a PoE leverage position. So there we go. We now have we have a 53-point lead. We're in a good position. We did go first, so keep that in mind. But we're in the right spot right now in this game. We have the opponent where we want them. If they hit us with a 7-letter word, then we at least have the ability to fire back on offense without getting too far behind. So this is one of my favorite positions in the game. When the triple word opens up for me, because I can put he, that's a word right there, and now I can build off with a triple word. So I'm utilizing my layers effectively. I immediately see the word gripe. Fantastic. 38 points. I'm putting the I instead of the O. I could do either, but this will allow me to be able to utilize this K here if I would like. So I'm saving the K, which is my highest value letter, and I'm putting down 38 points. We are almost up 100 points right now. So we have our opponent fully in panic mode. And an element of this game on playscrabble.com is the added time. So I'm going to start going quicker now because I have a lead. I don't want to put my opponent in a position where he wins because I don't utilize my letters effectively. Here's another example of high leverage. XI, one of the most valuable X is one of the most valuable letters in the word for this reason. I put an X here, and all I gotta do is I can put A, O, or O. I'm gonna go with O. Well, actually, the J is not on the board, so I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna go with A. It really doesn't matter, but there, just with 2 letters, I gave myself a 36-point word. He or she, whoever this is, hit me with the 33-point letter with the utilizing the Z, which off the triple letter. So it hurts, but doesn't hurt much when you can come back with a 30-point word of your own. So now we have an 85-point lead. That 33-point word did not hurt us one bit. Now comes back with utilizing the Z again with a 15-point word. Because we're a bit crunched on time, I could try to figure out a 6-letter word to utilize as N, but it's going to be difficult. So I'm going to be looking elsewhere. One thing about the C is there's 0 2-letter words that have a C in it. So you can't really utilize those. And I don't have any great plays here, but what I'm going to do is not har, but par. And I'm OP, I know, is a valid 2-letter word. So I'm going to utilize and leverage this P and get myself more points than what my opponent just put down. So I'm extending my lead and not utilizing much layers to do it. Now I'm going to look to see how can I possibly make a 6-letter word. I might not be able to. My opponent probably won't be able to as well. But I'm also looking at, oh, he does. Novice. It's 21 points. It really doesn't knock things out of the ballpark. So let's see, what can I do now? There's not a lot I can do with this C right here, which is unfortunate. So I'm just going to utilize, once again, my high leverage words. and give myself 20 points, all thanks to putting the triple letter on the K, which is where all my leverage comes from, just that one letter. You can kind of see how utilizing those triple letter, those triple word spaces on the board gives you such a huge advantage because cake isn't a fantastic word by any means, but it's continuing to drive me forward. I have a 90-point lead at this point. If my opponent was to hit me with a word like this, it hurts a little bit, but I'm already in a great position, so I'm not too worried. Another thing I want to look at is how many S's, how many blank spaces do we have left? There's a blank space and an S left. So my opponent could have them, but we could also get it as well. So where do we go from here? Looking to see if I have anything that ends with an O to possibly make a 6-letter word. I don't really don't have any fantastic plays here. So without using too much time, because I don't want to give my opponent an advantage, I'm just going to use a simple 2-letter word that'll give me some points. Like that one. So I don't have anything I can put up here as a 6-letter word, at least obviously off the bat. I'll try like shuffling these around, seeing maybe I can get something better. But I still feel firmly in control of this game because of my sizable lead. He's not really putting out any really scary words. So I'm going to try to I'm trying to utilize one of these double letter words. And maybe try to get rid of these ends because I have a lot of ends right now. Linen, if I can put down linen somewhere, would be pretty good. So let's see if I have any ways of doing that. I could do this online. Problem with this is I don't like this because I'm opening up a triple word. I'm only getting 12 points out of it. Don't have great words, so I'm going to just try to make a defensive move here. This is a good spot to make a defensive move. So what is my best option to do a defensive move here? Uh, Not a ton of space on the board available, and I'm running out of time, so I don't want to waste too much of it. So I'm gonna go with lentil. Basically, it's a little bit better than putting online up here. You still gotta get creative with whatever word you put up here because you can't do LE. You have to do LA or LI or LO, but E is the easiest vowel to end a word with. So I mean, it's very possible they can utilize this triple word, but it certainly gives less options than if I were to put online up here. Plus, I utilize this triple letter. I utilize the double word. And there you go. It puts goal. It's great, but it's not fantastic. So I have an S now. I'm gonna quickly look to see if I can pull off something easy with this S, like a double word. But not exactly. So So I'm going to find a different spot to use this. That's my play. Going with earns. I utilize the S to get this Z here. This just putting the S down alone gave me 18 points. I get rid of the U, and I absolutely hate U's in this game because you can't do as much of U's as other vowels. So now we have 10 tiles left. I have 3 minutes to go in my score, but I'm still pretty comfortable. I have an 80-point lead. So now I'm just going to focus on just trying to get rid of my letters without compromising my score, of course. So 14 points there. I get rid of my V. V, like C, you can't use twice. You can't use double letters for those. Or 2-letter words for those, is what I mean. I have a Y here, which means I can make pottery. So I'm going to be looking to use that on my next turn in any way I can. I can use something as simple as any, and I get 24 points. So 3-letter word, 24 points, high POE. That's kind of the way I look at things. What it really comes down to, your POE comes down to what letter can I utilize that will just give me high leverage points. So I hope you're kind of seeing how I'm able to create a high score for myself. If you get 300 points or more in a game, it's generally pretty good. You don't have to have 300 points to win, but it certainly will help. Fen, I know, is a word, so this will only help my score. So there we go. I have almost 100-point lead on my opponent, and this game is all but over. It's just a matter of getting all my tiles down. And when you're at the end of the game, especially if you have the lead, don't worry so much about putting down the best possible word. You should always be trying to do that, but what's more important is just getting these letters out, and especially your letters that are most likely to trip you up. I noticed though my opponent has a Q, so I'm just going to make sure I don't open up any opportunities for them to use the Q. So DI is in the word, and I get rid of my U, so I'm fine with that play. If you're at a point in the game where you are behind, but you notice your opponent has a letter that is worth a lot of points, then, and they also have a J too, which is a tough position for them. They put down quid. I'm going to try to get rid of all my letters as much as possible. So DE is a word, so I'm going to put down tune, and I'm going to win the game. And that is how it's done. Final score 353 to 271. Just thorough domination throughout. I mean, my opponent put down some good words. It wasn't a total complete blowout, but I was really never not in control of that game. And it was all because of the strategies that I shared with you earlier in this video. So I hope this was a good example, and I hope to follow up with more examples of how to win these types of games. And until then, I hope you learned something from this video. And now it's Shoop Scrabbles, and I'm signing out.